All right. So when we start, we're going to just start by hitting new drawing. And you are met with a canvas here that you can use your fingers to pinch and make larger or smaller. You can also rotate it. So it's pretty intuitive for how that canvas operates. And I like to make mine just a little bit smaller when I start off, that way I can see the edges. Otherwise it starts off like the size of your screen, filling it up. And I just kind of like to know how big my paper is. You can make your canvas any size that you want. If you do new drawing, it just starts with kind of a fit to screen size. Otherwise, you need to go in and say like custom size. For this project, it doesn't matter that much all of the settings because we're just going to turn it in digitally. So in the future, I might go over how to change things like resolution and whatnot. Here in the corner, there are 3 brushes. This top one, if you hover over it, it says selected pixel brush. That is your raster brush. If you go down, there's selected live brush. That is also a raster brush, but it's kind of cool. It interacts, especially the watercolor stuff. There's kind of like a video element to it where it does actually kind of move and flow. And then below there is your vector brush. I like to draw using the vector brushes. As a refresher, the difference between raster and vector is raster is literally telling each pixel what color and like value and all of those different things to every single pixel. If we draw with a, let me just find like a good inker here. That's basic. Here we go. We can do this. If I draw with this and then I zoom in, you're going to see at the most zoomed in parts, this one wasn't hard enough to see it really, really good. One moment. And that was too big. Oh, yeah, because it's set to 35,000 or 3,500. Ooh. Okay. If I draw here and then I zoom in, you can see how this line has a pixelated edge. That's because the brush is telling it at the edge how to kind of fade out so that from a distance it looks like a nice line. But zoomed in, this edge looks funky. The raster is just fine. However, if you want to scale it much smaller or much larger, there is a better option in the digital world, which is simply, I'm going to make this bigger, which is simply to use vector. Vector, unlike raster, instead of encoding each pixel with all of the information that it needs, uses mathematical points that remain consistent, and then it generates a line in between them. So no matter how big you blow it up or how small you make it, it's just recording those mathematical points and that a line should be generated between them at what angle, etc., etc. So if I come in, that's too big, make it smaller. You'll notice this double tappy thing that I'm doing, which I should just, one moment. I tapped too far. Okay. If I come in with a vector brush and I make the same lines, as I come in, the computer is rendering it nice and even. We don't get a funky line. You might get like a little weird shadow while it's rendering back or forth, but it'll correct itself. Unlike Illustrator, for this program, you can't go in and edit points. But I could bring this line into Illustrator, and Illustrator would read the points. So if that is important to you, we don't super get into that in this class. Okay, what are some other things that we can do to address how to begin drawing in this program? Another thing that you want to take note of is the eraser tool. We've already discovered that. On your brushes, as well as your eraser, there's a little white box here somewhere. That white box controls your size. So you can slide up and down for a bigger or smaller brush, or eraser tool. And then you can also select. I would have to draw something in order to select. You can paint fill. You can use an eyedropper tool to pick up color. And then over on this side, the right side, we've looked kind of over the left menu, there is this like stack of pages. That is your layers here. So this is saying this is a background. This is a pixel layer. I'm just going to delete that. And this is a vector layer. So pixel and vectors will go on separate layers in this program. So if you are drawing with a pixel brush and then you switch to a vector brush, it'll create a new layer. They can't exist on the same layer. So if you try to combine them, they'll all switch to pixel. They'll all switch to a raster layer. It just refers to it as pixel here instead of raster, but it's the same thing. Here, you can adjust layer properties such as opacity. We'll get to that in a moment. You can set up a grid on your page, which can even be in perspective. So, and 2 point, 1 point, 3 point, all the things. You can edit your vanishing points. You can adjust the density of this grid. I'm going to actually switch it just to a graph for right now. And then change my grid color to something I can see. Oh, are we going to change? There we go. And spacing, you can adjust here. It does keep the spacing at pixels, but you can either like look up like how many pixels is an inch or something like that and figure that out. Or when you set up your canvas, you can, I believe, set it up to be measuring in inches instead of pixels. So if you're not as familiar with that, that is fine. I'm going to turn off my grid just for right now. I can create a perspective grid as an image or layer. And there's a symmetry tool as well, where I can set up so that when I draw here, it makes a nice symmetrical shape. I can do all sorts of different types of symmetry too. I can also do rotational symmetry, where it's rotating as well as reproducing the same line. So like if I wanted to draw a flower but have it all rotating, that's kind of a funky flower, but all right. Another thing that you can do is you can adjust, sorry, I forgot about this when I was talking about brushes, the smoothing on your brush. It might be easier at first to turn that smoothing way up, because any shake that comes from your pencil just sliding across the screen will be somewhat cured by turning that smoothing up. You can also get like little tips and things that go on the end of your pencils, or I have a screen protector on mine that has a texture that gives it like a little bit more of a paper-like feel, which is nice. I need to replace it though, because I've definitely like worn some of that texture off. And I've definitely had it on for like 2 years, and they recommend changing it every 6 months. So, let's see, what else? There is Creative Cloud, if you have Creative Cloud. Okay, it says I'm offline. Let's see. Here, this little box with the plus adds in new layers. So if I wanted to add new layers, this little eyeball turns off and on a layer. So if I have a drawing here and I want to work on another layer here, but I don't want this in the way, I can turn it off. It's still there. I often do this on my sketchy layers, is once I get it outlined, I will just hide it versus deleting that layer. That way if I need to come back to reference it, I have it available. This right here, that creates a clipping mask. We don't even need to get into that yet. And then here, you can control your brightness, hue and saturation, and color balance of the entire layer. We don't need to really get into that either. Last thing is, let's open this up. This 3 dots option, if you're not finding the option here, it's probably hidden in the rest of this 3 dots. Okay, so what we're going to start with, I am going to clear the layer. I'm going to delete this one because I don't need it. And I'm going to turn off my symmetry because I also don't need that. The very first thing I'm going to do is I need to add in one of my photos. Right over here on the left-hand side, underneath the eyedropper tool, is a tiny little thing that is a stack of photos with a plus sign. I'm going to go to my photos and I'm going to click this drawing. Then I am going to pull the corners to resize it. Oops. You want to pull from these edges, from the corners, not from the edges. The edges will stretch it. Now, what you can do is purposely do that, because if you were like, oh, I drew my chair really wide and I just want a little squatter, you can adjust that. I am going to just make this a little bit bigger, kind of get it, and then I'm going to hit done. And then I'm going to come to my layer, have it clicked here. I'm going to go to my little adjustment bars on the right-hand side, and I'm just going to pull that layer opacity down until it's not as distracting for me, but I can still see these lines. In fashion, you're going to do the same thing. It's just for now going to be one of your fleshed out form, or sorry, yes, one of your fleshed out forms.
Like that?
Yep, like that. All right. What we are going to do next is we're going to use some tools that you have available to you in digital drawing that you just do not have available as a when you're sketching in traditional media. And I don't know. So when digital drawing first started becoming more common and digital art becoming more common, there was like a whole division in the art community about whether digital art was really considered art. We've kind of come to it to now being like, oh, of course it's a type of art. It's a whole different set of skills. And largely it was a misunderstanding of traditional artists not realizing what digital art even was. They were kind of thinking of it as like the computer does it all for you. And it's like, oh, very much so that is not true. It's still useful to learn to draw in your sketchbook and whatnot, because, you know, like, what if your iPad battery dies, or you don't want to buy an iPad, or you're just doing those quick sketches. I like working cross-platforms. Often I will sketch something, I will go in, draw it more digitally, do some things, and then I will take it back out and create a painting of it. So I work back and forth. It's just part of my process. Let's see, I think actually I even want this a little bit bigger. So what you can do here is if you want to resize, you can hit this arrow and then the crosshairs, and it will take you back to resizing your image. And then you just have to remember to hit done. Otherwise, it won't take you back to where you can draw on it or anything. All right. Now I can go back in here. It's a little bit less for me to handle. I am now going to adjust this. So this put my image layer on top. I'm going to touch and hold and then drag to go underneath of the layer I'm going to draw on. Think of layers as though you're stacking sheets of tracing paper on top. What I'm going to do here is I have my vector brush selected. I am just going to basic, and I think I'm just going to choose this taper brush for now. The round one's actually probably fine. Maybe I'll just do round. And then I'll adjust the size of it to about the size that I want. And I'm going to come over to my grid panel, and I'm going to drop down snapping, and these are turned on. Just making sure that they are turned on. And then I'm going to set, I don't think it's going to matter for our rotation snapping for now. Okay. If it is, we'll go back and change it. I'm just going to put my pencil down and draw a line, and then if I just hold it there for a bit, it snaps to be perfectly straight. So I'll show you that again. So even if I'm like that, oh, that one I went a little too far. As long as you're like mostly there, you can snap it to be straight. And then you can extend it or shorten it. Once you pick up, your line's there. I'm going to put down my pen. And right now I'm just tracing this form. So, well, if ever you get like a little funky thing, you can just 2-finger tap to erase. 3 fingers to bring it back. So 2, 3. You can 2-finger back quite a few ways. Okay, so there's that. There's that one. Bring this across. Hold these down. And all the way across.
Now, do you have a layer on top of that?
Yes, so this is my photo layer. This is my vector layer.
Okay.
So I have the photo layer. I set the opacity, of this layer way down. Usually it is about 24-25%. Then I added a layer and selected my vector brush.
Okay. You might have to reiterate that for me.
Yeah. Well, this is learning a new software.
Even though I got A in vector, but it's still like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, anytime you're learning a new software, just expect me to go over every step again and again and again. All right, we're going to pull here, snap, pull here, snap. For my fashion folks, you can do things like circles and then snap it to be more of a perfect ellipses and resize. So if you're like, okay, I'm way better at drawing circles like pretty small, but I need it larger, you can draw it smaller and then pull. So that's very nice. You can also, you know how I'm always rotating my paper? You can 2-finger, not a tap, but a hold and pinch, pull, rotate. So feel free to adjust things to be at a comfortable drawing posture for you. Up there. Pull that down. So we can get a really nice little drawing. I'm going to real quick just go and do a new one that shows fashion. So, okay. I need to bring in an image. Oh, I did not take a picture of that. One moment. So, if you haven't taken a photo of your work, what you can do instead of taking it beforehand is I can come in here and say, okay, I want to use my camera. Oh, I have a case. I need to take it off the back because I have a keyboard attachment. I'm going to take that image, drop it back on my folio here. Did I flip this all upside down? I did. Okay. Use photo. Done. Oops. Ah. Adjust that opacity down. Go back into here and adjust this to be the size I want it. So I might have to zoom way out to get this one close to the size I want. Actually, I'm going to turn it the long way. If you need to turn your photo, grab that and this like little tail, this dot will help you turn your photo. And then I can pull my figure right there, hit done, zoom in. Okay. Now, I need to pull my photo layer down so that I can use this layer. Or you can add a layer on top of it and delete that layer. Whichever way works best for you. Or you can leave that layer open for something later. But I like to just pull my photo reference to the bottom right above my background to start with. Here, I'm going to pick my vector brush. It's going to convert this to a vector layer. And I'm real quick. I need to make this a little bit less. There we go. I'm going to come in and get the rough. And just like I was doing for that chair, you can draw your line and then hold for a second, and it will make a nice line for you. I feel like I just want this to be like just a bit more. Maybe that was better. But you can come along your lines and play around with that feature, see how useful it feels.
You have it on 62. Is it supposed to be on 62, the widening of the screen, or it should be on 100? Like
62
percent, like width or wide. I mean.
Oh, so I selected new, so it did like my screen size. This is just like how much zoomed in I have my work at any given moment. So I could adjust it and say I want 50, and then it will automatically take me there. Oh, and then I'm gonna collapse that down so that I have more drawing room. So I'm going to come and redraw these lines. Once again, turning up the smoothing really high is extra helpful to get nice, beautiful lines. And then let's...
My iPad won't let me take a picture.
It won't let you take a picture? Oh, it's because the case is covering it, maybe?
So we gotta take the case off?
You might have to pop it out of its case or move something that is in front of the camera. Does the case have an opening for the camera?
Okay, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I don't
Okay.
want to derail you. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll come and check it out here in a moment. And we're just going to continue drawing our figure. I like to try to get like as long of a line as I can get in one swoop and then kind of stop at a joint. That way it just maintains a nice line for me. And I'll also do any little corrections. But you don't have to have it perfect at this point because we're probably going to end up covering up a bunch of the figure here. I also like to keep in any of these lines that I've given myself as guides, because I'll be redrawing a lot of this later. But see how turning that smoothing up can just like make a heck of a lot of difference. Okay. I can come in and erase anywhere that I need to erase. I do need to adjust my size. Pay attention to that though. I usually have my smoothing turned more down for my eraser because I'm trying to just get it to pick right underneath my pen. Alright. And let's do just some sort of gesture for the hand here. I'm not really concerned about it. And feet. And then let's get that foot shape in. Just a little bit. Yeah, that's a little funky. Yeah. I got it like way too, I don't know. I'm getting in my head about it now. I think I need to pull that in. I don't know. It just has to be a gesture of it right now. I'm going to do all sorts of things later. I just want a marker. Oh, and then some lines for my head. Once again, you don't really have to put in any lines that indicate things like eyes. I am just going to mark mine in briefly. Oh, I probably want to know where this form comes along to. Okay. Back to a chair. This part is a little bit more specific for interior folks. Fashion folks, if you do this with your form, it's going to start looking funky so fast. Interior folks, this is such a basic chair. What if I wanted to play with proportions and angles and all sorts of things and make it a little funkier? I can make sure that I am on my line layer, my vector layer. I can select it, and then I can press distort, and one moment. Nope, that's not what I want done. undo that. Okay, just a sec. Let me go in and turn off this grid. I didn't actually want to do that. I clicked something thinking it was something else. Oops. Alright. Have my layer on the correct layer. Pressing this little crosshairs. I'm going to hit distort. Now I can take these corners and like pull them and mess with my proportions, my perspective. I can also go to liquefy. When you liquefy it, it makes you commit to the transformations you've done already. So I'm just going to go back from here and say I want to liquefy it. It converts it to a pixel layer when you liquefy it. You can always go back in vector and redraw it once you've done that. I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do before I even do this is I'm going to hit done here. I'm going to click on this layer and I'm going to hit duplicate layer. I'm going to hide one of them. And then I'm going to go mess with a layer. That way I have a safety layer, basically, is what this is up here. So I just clicked on it, duplicated, and then hid one of them and went back to the other layer. Okay. Let's liquefy it. Convert that layer. So now I can do some really weird things. I can set warp, and then you want to set your brush size. It doesn't give you like a visual.
I got behind some.
So you just go here into liquefy.
Oh, okay.
And then you say yes to that
Convert layer.
convert layer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just hitting warp. I'm adjusting my brush size. I wish it like more showed me. And then you can change things like how the density of your warp here, or how much pressure you need to put down. And it kind of gives you a visual of like how big that warp is going to be if you're adjusting up and down. So this is adjusting kind of that full area. That, ooh, that's a fun number for my brush to be. Okay. All right, and now I'm going to just pull across here, and I can warp like the back of my chair. So remember, you can always do that 2-finger back. And now I can like warp my lines to create something really funky in space, something that's not full of parallel lines. I could warp up this and maybe push out the arms. Let's see, how would this one go then? Like, whoop. Maybe I'll leave it and then just kind of try to copy that. And then I can hit done. What I can now do is this is a reference to start building a much more interesting chair. And so what the project is going to be is to bring in either your form or your chair drawing. You can play around with both of them. I would suggest starting with the really basic form and seeing what you can do, because it's easier to see how things are warping and changing. And then we're going to take it and make a more realistic drawing, because this is still very conceptual. So the difference between concept and a more realistic sketch is conceptual doesn't have to fit in any sort of real world parameters, whereas our realistic sketches, we're trying to make them look a little bit more like they could actually exist. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. What I wanted to do was come here and just lower the opacity of that. At this point, I'm going to turn off the visual on my image layer as well. So go ahead and play around with that warping. I'm going to go back to fashion for a moment.
My pen don't want to work. What's that about?
Huh?
My pen don't want to.
Your pen don't want to work?
Yeah.
Like touch the pen inside the iPad for a bit and then try.
Touch the pen.
Like set it on top of the magnet strip because that should automatically sync it and then try. And then also make sure that you have your brush selected and not eraser. Because usually that's what I've done. Oh, the Apple Pencils on the side have a feature where if you double tap, it goes to eraser. So if I go, it switches it to eraser. Oops, but you can't see. So pen,
I love that I turned that off.
erase. Yeah, you could go into settings. I've just kind of learned to not do
It
it.
was on. Oh.
Was it on eraser?
It was on white.
Oh,
That's what.
even.
I do that all the time.
Literally all the time I'll be like, I can't draw, something's not working. And it's that my pencil has been clicked over to eraser or the color is the same color that my background is. All right, I'm going to hide my image layer. Now I just have my little friend here. If I go in and warp her, she's gonna look weird. So I'm going to keep her.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Mine is doing the thing where it starts off small and then it gets big and it leaves like little dots so the line is not perfectly straight.
What brush do you have selected?
Oh, you know. So, I have round and it's also on basic.
Okay. Let me come look at that real quick. Alrighty. I have my little fashion drawing here. And if I go in, let's duplicate, hide. Okay. If I go in here and I'm like, I'm going to distort or liquefy my person, I might be able to get some stuff okay, but it's pretty quickly going to mess up my anatomy. As long as I'm kind of keeping with like the same lines I used, I can usually make something a little wider or a little narrower. But I have to be really careful that my brush is big enough that I am not, if this is a smaller brush, for example, just like bending that hand way too much and making it look funky. So just coming here and then having this larger brush size and pulling the legs down in a smooth motion, that's fine. You can do some liquidation and some changing there. I can hit done. I can correct these feet at another time. They now look really bad. But if they're really bothering me, I can go in right now and just doctor them up. I think this is gonna give me, okay, yeah. So I have a vector brush selected, so it's gonna give me another layer to start with. I can, if this is on another layer and I want it to be on this pixel layer, I can select merge down and it'll just convert it to a pixel for me. So I can do minimum warping of things as a as far as my form goes. So if you're like, oh, I just need to quickly adjust the height, that's pretty easy. If you want to push the perspective a little bit, not very much because it's going to go. You can do it a little bit, but we're still trying to maintain within a realm of physical possibility for our form. Where this becomes super useful is that I can lower the opacity here, and now I can select a new layer and start to draw my clothing on top. And my clothing, I can just start with saying, okay, I want really basic forms, such as this sleeve is made up of a cone. Now, if this is reality and I don't have anything supporting the sleeve, it's actually a cone more like this, because gravity exists. Bane of my existence. And then, we'll follow anywhere that the fabric is sitting on top, typically will fall down unless it's fabric that has body and can support itself. So for example, I could have this bell sleeve like this. I could have my sleeve curve, and then I could say, okay, there is some sort of padding to like make this like a huge Star Trek-y shoulder pad. I'm doing wild and crazy things just because it's easier to show shapes. What are tops except for tubes with holes in them? So that means it's a cylinder. Ta-da! A cylinder now fits on my person. And then I can edit it from there. But go ahead and create the other layer and just practice fitting basic forms over the body. And then you can do the same thing where you drop the opacity of the layer, hit a new layer, and say, yeah, but like she's not wearing upholstery material, so her tube top is not going to stick out like that. It's going to follow this bust line.
Not upholstery material. Your theater has money.
Well, that's true. If you're in a theater, it will be upholstery material almost all the time. And it will be inner lined and outer lined, and the seam allowances will be 4 inches wide. But if you're doing couture, fashion, you have an internship in France or New York City, you have unlimited money to go to Mood and buy actually good material, then you can. But that's true. If you're working for a theater, it's like, honestly, it's
A lot of curtains.
I was going to say it's Deep Space Nine, just all over again, if you've seen Star Trek. I swear that they make all of, literally the entire cast except for the, like, Starfleet uniforms. It's all upholstery furniture. Like Quark. He's the most upholstery there's ever been. I'll pull up pictures later. And so now I can follow the forms of the body depending on how closely this fits. I'm going to briefly just hide this layer and go back here to my basic shapes. The basic shapes have so much more ability to go in a funky, liquefied, fun thing. I can make them bigger or smaller. I can adjust the size. So a lot of times I'm drawing like each separate portion of the garment, like a sleeve or the bodice or the skirt on different layers. That way I can control them separately. I can come in, I can commit to transforming them and convert the layer and decide, yeah, I really want a dramatic sleeve. And just quickly and fluidly adjust those lines. I can decide this was an insane idea because if you turn to the side, like you can't drive in this shoulder. You won't be able to see. So I can push that down a little bit. And then if I kind of follow the form, I can straighten out the line so it's not so wild. Think about forms like that. Think about the fact that you can come in. Oh, that's on a hidden layer. Okay. Think about the fact that you can come in. I want this. Oh, it's trying to take me back to the only vector layer. Ah. Think about the fact that you can come in and say, okay, I have kind of a blob fitting here, and this is kind of the direction of that. And do all of that sketching underneath. And then lower opacity, draw your nice lines on top. Same thing goes when we go back to this chair. I have my altered image. We are going to go to the layer. I think this is, yes, this is a blank layer. If I wasn't sure, honestly, you can just come over and hide it and see if anything goes away. Or you can add a new layer and go back and take out extra layers. Right now I'm going to adjust this chair. So I really like how this arm thing sticks out. Like, this is like a Disney villain chair, and I'm here for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come, oh, big, adjust my pen size and my smoothing. What did I do to turn this all off? Oh, I'm on Pixel. Yep. I had never adjusted it in the first place. I'm going to redraw the front of this. I'm going to keep in mind where my lines like really are. So I need to bring that up probably a little bit. And maybe I just want a little bit more. And then actually I probably don't even want that there. I want to do some sort of fun leg. So tiny, now be big. And now I want, here's a fun thing to do. I want to match that pretty close, but I want it here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to go over to grab it, and I'm just going to pull it over. And then I am going to hit perspective and see what I can do about making it look a little more right. Oh, that was looking better. But then I think I need to drag it about like that. That's closer. Erase off the end. I forgot to do that before I adjusted things. Okay. Now come back in with my line. What does that look like? Kinda.
This is wow.
This is fun. This is so fun.
This is fun, but it's like I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I really, what this next assignment is, our digital assignment, I'll check in a moment to make sure I have the wording up, otherwise I'll go in and put the wording up now. But we're literally just going to be using those transformational aspects of the warping, the liquefy, the perspective, whatever you want to do to alter the shape, the initial shape of your chair to something more extreme. So it doesn't have to be something you like. I just want you to play with those functions and then come back in and try to figure out, still using your intuitive knowledge of perspective that you're developing, to create something that looks like it could exist in real life. I think I can do that as long as those remain super thick like that. Okay, legs. Legs for days. I need to decide if I want this chair to have like boxy legs Or like, you know what they need to be? They need to be like cool drag and scroll work type things. So I'm going to just use my knowledge of basic shapes to create that form. Maybe I'll just do it like this. And I can add in details later. So I'm not expecting this to be like a fully rendered detail drawing. I'm expecting you to play with using the knowledge that you have developed so far to be very creative and make something kind of unique. So if we get to here, that is great. That is fantastic for today. Some of you I know do not have iPads, so if you've had iPads for the first, how many of you have not had an opportunity to use the iPad yet? 1, 2, is there 3, 4? Okay, so at the halfway point, so at 2:30, we're going to switch and let the other group use them. Okay.